top of the show, you mentioned white hat hackers, and if I just to make sure I understand what you meant by that, because that's a term I'm not. I mean, I think I can figure it out, but I'm not particularly familiar with. But is that just like hacker, like people who have these vast computer skills and these hacking skills who end up becoming like vigilante justice? They're the Batmen and women of the internet who are saying this is wrong and I'm going to use my hacking skills to punish bad guys.
Well, it's the people who are trying to use their hacking skills to make the state of security better rather than exploiting the vulnerabilities they find. They're doing things like my own students have done and looking for vulnerabilities instead of monetizing them for their own gain, responsibly disclosing them to the vendor or maybe to a government agency to say, hey, I found this flaw. It could really be harmful if, somebody with more malicious intent were to find it.
Gotcha.
And responsibly disclosing those so that vendors can patch them. We now have a system where there are bug bounties that you can get paid out, and some people make their whole living off of earning those for the flaws that they find and report.
Gotcha.
And that just helps to make it harder for the malicious hackers to exploit the vulnerabilities that exist. And so one of the things that I do that I'm interested in is trying to make the world safer for the people who are trying to help, including through important steps like when the Supreme Court, like I said, reined in the scope of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. That was important because terms of service can often include forbidding the kinds of things that somebody who's trying to test a system for vulnerabilities in order to report them might look for. But you don't want to have the sort of system that we long had where the people who were finding vulnerabilities would often be scared that if they reported them, that they might end up getting in trouble, getting sued, getting prosecuted. And even to this day, we see news stories, especially at the state level, where people who responsibly report vulnerabilities that they stumble across or that they find intentionally still to this day can get threatened with being sued, even though the federal government has now backed off and said, we recognize that good faith security research is something that we should be encouraging rather than discouraging, and we will back off from threatening to prosecute people under the CFAA for that kind of work.
So bug bounties, you mentioned that. That's basically a modern day version of the Robert Redford movie Sneakers from 1992. Is that more or less correct?
Well, we show clips from that in class because at least my co-instructor thinks that it is just about the best hacker movie ever made. It is. It's a great classic.
Yeah.
And bug bounties are a way of trying to pay people to compensate them for doing the right thing,
Yep.
right? When you
Yeah.
could sell a vulnerability on the black market potentially for a lot of money, there should be some way of saying, well, if we want people to get more than just the feeling of, being a Boy Scout and getting a gold star, make sure that they have a financial incentive to disclose vulnerabilities to us instead of to somebody else who will use it for ill. And so that's a way of not just saying, okay, not only are we not going to sue you or call the cops on you, we're also going to pay you for having told us about this.
America is still America, isn't it?
America is still America, and this is the
Yeah.
thing when we look at proposals for how to protect good faith security researchers, I've seen a lot of debate over, okay, well, how do we define that? Over what I've said seems to be a fear of sending too few people to jail. Like, well, what if some bad faith guys cloak themselves as being, good faith researchers who are trying to do good? And it's like, okay, only in America would we be afraid that people are going to misuse the system,
Yeah.
and we might end up sending fewer people to jail than we otherwise might.